Alrighty, I think we are on. All right, this is an individual project. Basically, it will be doing everything that we have done in this class the entire semester. So our entire semester is going to be put into a project. Okay, you will have, you can print this out if you want. You don't have to print it out if you don't want. If you don't have the capability of doing it, that's fine. But you're going to be doing a statistical study focusing on one specific question, which asks how much or how many. This is a quantitative data, not qualitative. Be careful choosing your question. Don't worry, don't ask anybody about money, weight, age, and sensitive areas. Your study will focus in collecting real world data, and you're going to have to do 30 collections. You're going to have to do 30 data points. Now, how you're going to be able to do your data points, typically what we would do is we would do everybody, it'd be a convenience sample, and that convenience sample would be, you'd be doing everybody in our class, and then also in a study hall, you'll be able to go get data points in the study hall. What I would suggest that you do is you text, email people and collect data that way through texting and emailing and collecting data in regards to your question. Everybody's question, you had to develop your own question. You have to develop your own question. Now, the types of questions that typically occur, that's easy to do. You should not all have the same questions. You should all have different questions or close to different questions. Typical questions: how many apps do you have in your phone? How many pictures do you have stored on your phone? How many games you have stored on your phone? How many states? How many states have you ever visited? How many pets have you ever had? How many devices in your household are Wi-Fi compatible? And you're talking about iPads. You're talking about TVs now are Wi-Fi compatible because you have Netflix and all that stuff. iPads, phones, computers, whatever you have. How many Wi-Fi compatible devices do you have in your house? How many rooms do you have in your house? Let's see. How many minutes? I'm trying to think back to old questions that people have done. How many minutes does it take for you to get ready in the morning to come to school? Okay, what time do you get up, and how many minutes does it take you to get ready for school? So these are all questions that you can ask. Okay, but you have to just pick one. Now, when you develop that question, you have to also make a guess. And some of that guess may be what's occurring in your life. What would be a guess? So you have to develop a question and make a guess. There's something here. Because what ultimately you're going to do is you're going to test that guess. Now, you don't want to change your guess because we're going to deal with a hypothesis testing at the very end of this project, and you're either going to reject or fail to reject the null hypothesis, but you make that decision at that point, and if you reject it, that's fine. If you don't reject it, that's fine. That just means you guessed well. So you're going to develop a question. Okay, once you develop that question,
Mr. Gregory?
Yeah?
If you're wanting us to see what's on the board, we can't see it because your screen isn't shared.
It's not. Well, why is it not shared? I don't know. Let me see. What do you see right now? I know what I did. Hold on. Let's do. There we go. Do you see it now?
Yes.
All right. Sorry about that. I'm sorry. I'm old. I sometimes forget what I have to do. So you're going to develop a question. You're going to develop a question and make an educated guess. What this will be is when you go to the second part of your project, you're going to test this guess. You're going to test this guess. And the null hypothesis, and this is the second part, is mu is going to equal your guess. And your alternate hypothesis will be mu will be not equal to your guess. So you're going to develop a question, make an educated guess, and then when you get further in your project in the second part of this project, you're going to test this guess. And once again, it's okay if you reject the null hypothesis or you fail to reject the null hypothesis. It's okay. I want you to go through the process of what people do statistically in regards to gathering data, collecting the data, organizing the data, and then testing the data and write a conclusion. So if you look at your first part, it says, what's your population? Well, your population, describe it. You got DHS students, most of them will be. How'd you gather? Well, you're going to gather this by a convenience, because it's going to be sort of convenient to you that your contacts, that you can be able to guess, or you should be able to collect data from the individual people that are there. What type of sampling? Is this a sample, a random sample? How many people in the population? Well, what you deal with respect to our population, we have about 230 students at Dalton High School. So as you go through this, your population will be 230 DHS students. Talk about any type of bias that you have. But once you get to that point, that should be in a description of how you're collecting your data. How to organize your data. What you're going to do is you want to get at least 30 pieces of data. Okay, at least 30. If you get more than that, that is fine. So what you're going to do with this data is you're just going to list the data. Whatever 5, 7, 9, 11, 12, 3, 4, whatever the data is, you just list it. Okay, and then does there appear any outliers? Then you have to make a frequency diagram using a consistent or constant width. Should have at least 5 classes there. So you decide how many classes, but no more than 20 classes. I would suggest 5, anywhere from 5 to 6, 7 classes that you utilize. Draw a histogram using the same classes of the frequency distribution. Determine the general shape of the histogram. Is it symmetrical, skewed left or right? Draw one other graph, that is a frequency polygon, a pie chart, whatever you want, and create a stem and leaf plot. Okay, that's organizing your data. The next is you're going to summarize your data. So you're going to calculate the mean. You're going to calculate the standard deviation, 5-number summary, and construct a box and whisker plot. Now, you will not You can utilize, if you want, your calculator to be able to calculate your data values. Okay, so you can go to your stats, you can go to calculate your one variable statistics, okay, and you can pull out your mean, your sample standard deviation, because we're just dealing with a sample because you're collecting data from 30 people, so it's just a sample of the population, so you're going to want to use the sample standard deviation there. You'll be able to find your first, second, your upper, lower, and median, quartile, your max and min, so your box and whisker plot. So you can pull all these values from your data, from your calculator. You do not have to do all the calculations to be able to deal with the work. When you go on to the part 2 and part 3 of the individual project, you're dealing with a confidence interval. Working with a 95% confidence interval, a point estimate, an error, and then the final step would be testing the null or alternate hypothesis. It is everything that we have done in this classroom for this class. This will be the only thing that we have this week. So basically the work that you're going to have to do, the initial work you're going to have to do is you're going to have to develop a question and go with that question and be able to collect the data. That is the initial part of this, is collecting the data. And once again, there's been numerous questions as I've gone through the years in regards to what people do. Being able to pull data off of phones is sort of an easy access data point. I'm trying to think of some other things that people have utilized in the past. Like I said, the number of states that you've been in, that you've traveled through on vacations, that you've visited, phone information, pictures, apps. What's your longest Instagram streak? How many TikToks have you ever made? How many followers do you have on TikTok? How many followers do you have on Instagram? Those are easy to be able to access. So what your initial part of this project today is, you need to develop a question. You need to come up with a question. And when you develop that question, you need to start asking people that question. So I'm trying to think of an easy way of doing this, so we can unmic and we can mic, or I don't know if you could share. I don't know if does Google Classroom allow you to send a message to your other students? I don't know if that's a capability of Google Classroom or not, that you can send out a message to the other students and be able to get the message back into everybody else. I know I've sent an email, a group email, and that's another thing that I could do, is I could just send a group email and you can just reply all, or you can just send emails to other people. I'm trying to figure out an easy way for you to be able to collect data. You could also stay online here and ask people online and just unmic and mic, but that would be awful confusing, because you're going to have a bunch of people asking questions at the same time. So maybe emailing and be able to get this information back as an email or a text message or anything like that might be easier for you. If you go back to one of my old emails with respect to announcement to the class, you can reply all to that email, and it will send out your question to all the people that are in the classroom here. That would probably be the easiest way to be able to collect the data. But once again, your goal would be to send out or be able to collect data, develop a question and send out an email or collect data from the people in the classroom. From that point, then it's just a lot of going through the checklist and making sure that you've taken care of all the things that I'm asking you to take care of. Questions that you have. This will be the last project or the last thing that we will do in stats class. All right, what I will do is I will send an email to everybody here that you can email everybody else and collect data from that point. And then any of your other friends, that you want to be able to ask the question of, that would be sufficient also. So you should receive that email, and then that gives you everybody in our class the question that you may want to ask them. And then once again, anybody else, you should know how to email the people, other people within your class, just putting your class or your class year and then the first initial last name, and you can email other people then at that point. Questions that you have? All right, what I will do is I will keep the Google Classroom open. I will close out of the Screencastify, but I will keep the Google Meet open. So if you want to answer or ask any questions of anybody as you go through, or if you want to just do the emails, that is fine also. Just be able to create a way and come up with a way of being able to develop data for you. Once again, you need to get at least 30 data points, and our class is about 28 or 29, population 28, 29. So you can get most of your data points within the classroom, but if you have other people that you want to ask, that is fine also. The more data points, once again, law of large numbers, the more data points you have, the better off you're going to be. But the key idea, once again, as you go through this, is develop the question and then make the educated guess. What is that educated guess? Because that guess is what we are going to test. Okay, so don't gather your data first and then get an educated guess in regards to what we are studying. Okay, gather the data, make the guess after you develop your question. What do you think? How many states have people traveled in? Well, I guess that they traveled in maybe 15 different states through all their vacations where they travel through a state. That would be a guess. Whether or not they have it, I don't know. So it's just opportunities for you to be able to, once again, use the statistical the statistical protocol in regards to what people do statistically to test data values. the test points. All right, once again, I will stop the screen Castify at this point, but if you want to hold on and